What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Alright, today's video we are going to be talking about X-Force number 12 by Benjamin Percy and Bazal Dua. And in this video, we're going to learn that Beast is on some world-class grade A levels of free. I'm talking about straight up and down, deep in the wrong, and just doing some things on Krakoa that lets you know his head is in the right place, but the execution is so way off the mark that he is perverting Professor Xavier's dream and what Krakoa stands for. And more importantly, we're gonna find out exactly how far Colossus's brother Mikhail Rasputin is willing to go to achieve his dreams, and exactly what use he has for Kid Omega. We're gonna talk about all that and more right now, but first, wash your damn hands and let's hit that intro.
Word to wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
Before we get started, if you want to see more awesome comic book videos like this one, it only takes 2 clicks to become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Click.
Let's get this out of the way, right off the rip. I did think the last issue, Sage was killed. Sage actually apparently was not killed, but she most certainly was in critical condition, but she is perfectly fine. She did not die. But Beast is really pushing Sage. He has her searching the gates for any types of passages and anomalies and travel. And one of the things that she discovers is a clear sign that the person who is the perpetrator of the attack, the person behind the Russian nesting dolls, the Russian super soldiers that they faced off with, you know, the ones that when you kill them, a smaller version of that super soldier pops out, and then another, and then another, and then another. Well, we now know who was behind that, and it was none other than Mikhail Rasputin, as I predicted so many issues ago. That said, Beast now has a new mission, and he knows that Mikhail Rasputin is a Russian nationalist. He also knows that Mikhail Rasputin does not particularly care for what they're doing on Krakoa. And more importantly, he wants to bring in anyone who has ties to Rasputin, whether it's through them being fellow countrymen or familial ties. It doesn't matter. He's bringing them in. They first start off with Omega Red, which honestly, when Beast first pulled up on Omega Red, I was half expecting Beast to bring up something about Omega Red working with Dracula. But apparently this issue takes place before what we saw in Wolverine. At least it seems that way. But nonetheless, they're bringing in Omega Red because he is a Russian and they have been co-conspirators in the past, so it makes sense to bring him in to question him to see what he knows. The one that they come to that is probably the most heartbreaking though is Colossus, because Colossus is Mikhail Rasputin's brother. They are bringing in Colossus for questioning, and though he doesn't seem to fight it, he does seem to be a little bit annoyed by it, the fact that they're bringing him in. Even his seemingly new boo thing, Kayla, seems to be particularly upset about this as well, even attacking Beast when they try to bring him in. What also kind of hurts in this is that, you know, the relationship between Colossus and Domino is affected by this encounter, because it now seems like, you know, in spite of everything that's gone on between them since X-Force began, it kind of now seems like there's a rift between them now in terms of trust, because, you know, Colossus, he did technically bring Domino back, to Krakoa and had her resurrected, but also at the same time had her mind wiped of, the traumatic events she suffered at the hands of Zeno, which was something she specifically asked him not to do, but he did it anyway. But now with the benefit of hindsight, she seems to be kind of over it. At the same time, she seems to question his trying to run from his own problems. Also, how he's started up this new relationship with this mysterious character who we've never met before. Just seems kind of off. Things start hitting snags when Beast tells him that, yeah, I have to handcuff you, even though I know you could break these handcuffs, but just the same, I am going to handcuff you because it is a new protocol. It's something that they've just started doing. And though Domino and Wolverine don't really seem to be all that bothered by it, it's when they walk through the Krakoan gate that everything changes. There is an entire audience waiting on the other side of the gate for Colossus to walk through it. And this is some new thing that Beast has cooked up. And it kind of goes into a personal logbook titled The Traitor's Parade, talking about how Xavier just kind of blindly trusts everyone that he has brought to Krakoa, whether they were heroes, whether they were villains, whether they were somewhere in between, even citing a moment where he has talked to Xavier about this, with Xavier replying that because I have everyone here, citing that Xavier is pointing to Cerebro, that he also trusts everyone here, and in saying so points to his heart. Because he backs up everyone's memories, he knows everything about them. He knows everything about Apocalypse. He knows everything about Magneto. He knows everything about Mastermind and Lady Mastermind and Selene and Implay, Exodus, all of these other, characters, villains that he has resurrected. He knows everything there is to know about them. And because he knows everything there is to know about them, that is kind of like an old saying, something that I actually use a lot when I say that I don't trust people inherently, but I trust people to be who they show me that they are. And that's kind of what Xavier is saying, that because I know who they are, I know everything about them, I trust them because I trust them to be themselves. Not only does Xavier trust them to be themselves, but because he knows what there is to know about them, then he knows there's nothing to fear from them, even if there is something to fear. And there is a point after that where Beast points out that, yeah, despite all of Xavier's tricks, whether it's mind wipes, mesmerisms, telepathic blocks, and he kind of goes on this little bit of a stuttering rant kind of off to the side, which kind of makes me think that, because he kind of goes to this thing where he says, and I'm sure there are many other tricks I haven't considered that could bypass Cerebro. And it makes me wonder if maybe at some point in time Xavier did that little mind wipe trick that he did on Mr. Fantastic on Beast in regards to what Xavier can completely do. So I don't know. That may be a reach, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case, considering this isn't the same Xavier that we grew up with. I mean, granted, the Xavier we grew up with was an asshole and a jerk and not a good person and kind of a pedophile. Yeah, and very much into the whole child soldier, armada thing. So yeah, I mean, he wasn't a good person to begin with. So let's get Patrick Stewart out of our heads for a moment. But the whole idea is that he believes that if people are being watched, it's the whole panopticon thing, that if people are being watched, they are less likely to commit a crime because they know they will be seen. Even equating it to how people have, those little Ring doorbells that have cameras on them, even though he says that, people are less likely to steal things off your porch because of it. I've actually seen people, do it regardless, but also inciting the idea of traffic cameras and cameras being basically everywhere, that people are less likely to commit crime because they know they will be seen, which is actually kind of funny. That's actually not the case. I mean, yeah, maybe it does cut down on crime, but it means that we see crime more often as a result of that. So I don't know if his words actually have as much weight as he probably thinks they do. But his whole idea is parading those who are thought to be guilty or, questionable, parading them in front of their peers. He feels that the idea of Krakoa is too blindly optimistic and that it is not out of the realm or scope of possibility for there to be traitors in people's midst. And this also goes back to what we talked about in Marauders number 12, where Bishop had let Beast know that there was a bad actor on Krakoa. Not necessarily saying it was Sebastian Shaw, but basically letting him know that there is somebody who is likely in a position of power who has committed foul play against another mutant and could possibly be working against Krakoa's best interest. This has Beast even more paranoid, and he's not necessarily citing that here, but it's basically kind of letting us know that it's one of those situations where, kind of like where Jonathan Hickman said, you don't have to read every Dawn of X title, but reading every one of them will likely fill in some gaps. And that's kind of one of those gaps. Yeah. So Beast has every right to be paranoid. I think his actions, though, are very out of pocket, though. Having Colossus have to be paraded in front of everyone as if he were guilty is a problem. And we learn immediately that Wolverine takes issue with this. And even though Beast claims that, yes, even though we are making a spectacle of his guilt, if he turns out to be innocent, we'll make a spectacle of that as well. But Wolverine ain't trying to hear it, and he gut checks him for it. And we also see here that, yeah, Colossus and Domino's relationship is probably irrevocably messed up by this, is probably irrevocably broken. And Wolverine doesn't want anyone else hanging around. He wants everyone to spread out, no parade, no nothing. Now that that bit of business is out of the way, they still have to figure out what's going on. And I do have to wonder, where is Magic in all this? Because Magic is the sister of Rasputin, and for whatever reason, she's not being questioned right now the same way Colossus and Omega Red are. So I have questions about that. I do have really big questions about that. I feel like she should be here as well, but maybe because she is a captain, maybe they gave her the benefit of the doubt, or maybe they have already questioned her privately. I don't know, but it would be safe to assume that that is probably the case. But they are bringing Marvel Girl back in, Jean Grey, because she did actually leave X-Force. It wasn't lip service. She actually did walk away from the team a couple of issues back, and we now learn that she is being brought back in so that she can look into the minds of Colossus and Omega Red and find out what's what. The thing I'm curious about is, what is she gonna find in Omega Red's head? Because we know that he is working with Dracula. Is she gonna find him out? Is she gonna figure out that he's up to some shit? More importantly, I'm wondering what is it she's gonna find in Colossus's head, because once again, I feel like Colossus has been hiding something. Even beyond his PTSD issues, I feel like there's just something up with him. He just hasn't felt right since he has been on X-Force. And I know there was that little snafu where one of the issues of X-Force, his death was brought up, but actually it wasn't a death, some kind of a miscommunication in the storytelling. But I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about there's something else that's going on with Colossus that just feels hinky. I do also want to point out that one of the things I do like here is that we do get another story from Chronicler in this one, supposed Russian observer who has been keeping tabs on everything. And even though I haven't paid a lot of their stories in this any real attention, one of the things that did actually strike me as interesting was their retelling of what Colossus would have done. They go back, they're actually talking about the exact moment where we watch Beast, Domino, and Wolverine try to take Colossus in and take him on that traitor's parade. And what they do is, towards the bottom, everything goes about the way that we saw it happen in this comic, even up to the point where Colossus activates his metallic form. But that's exactly where things change, where instead of him going peacefully with Beast, Wolverine, and Domino to, unbeknownst to a traitor's parade, instead, Colossus basically beats the brakes off of Beast, and Colossus seemingly beats him to death in the middle of that flower field. Now, I don't know what's going on here because, once again, Chronicler's identity has not been revealed. But part of me wonders if that's what Colossus was actually thinking about doing. And I mean, it's not like Beast wouldn't deserve it. Now, getting back to Mikhail. Mikhail, we know he has taken the Cerebro sword that was, stabbed through Kid Omega, and he was kicked through the portal to Mikhail with Cerebro sword still in his body, and Mikhail now has possession of it. We don't really know why he absolutely positively wants it though, but we have learned he has big ambitions for how he wants to take on Krakoa. The thing is that, Quentin Quire brings up the fact that you're a mutant. Why are you battling against your own people? Why are you choosing your country over your species? And he is very quick to point out that he is choosing his country, and when he chooses country, he is choosing himself. And he is fully aware of everything Krakoa has to offer. He knows that Quentin Quire can be brought back. He knows that even if he kills him, he will be resurrected, and he can tell that Quentin Quire is incredibly powerful. And we also learn here that this is actually how Sage was able to find out who exactly was behind all this, because it in fact was Quentin Quire who left the message that Sage found. You see, the thing is that Mikhail has thrown in his lot with Xeno. And Xeno, we know, is this anti-mutant organization. They're basically the Marvel equivalent of like the Proud Boys or the alt-right. That's essentially what they are. They hate all things mutant, and they want to destroy all things mutant, and they want to bring down the mutant hierarchy and take all the things that Xavier and Magneto have worked for throughout House of X. They want to take all that away and take things back to the way they were. We know in the events of House of X and Powers of 10 that there's a future on the way that the mutants have been trying to avoid, more specifically Xavier, Magneto, and Mora X. The thing is, I think that the events that are going on right now, the things they're doing in what is potentially Mora's final life, I think these things are actually causing a lot of their greatest fears to arrive earlier than was initially expected. The whole thing about post-humans, we're seeing that Russia has already been creating its own super soldiers to be able to combat mutants, and we learn that Xeno is doing something very similar. They had been doing something very similar since X-Force #1 in Dawn of X, they had been grafting the skin off of Domino, taking her genes and her cells and using them to create their own super soldiers. One of which was the guy that Rasputin killed in one of the previous issues of X-Force. Well, this guy has been modified. They're not going to rebuild him, they're going to add to him, taking mutant hormones and mutant genes and creating new things out of them to create the perfect being. Basing it on the idea that despite the fact that Neanderthal man created tools, it was Homo sapien who surpassed him. And what they're going to do is take everything that Krakoa has and use it to benefit humanity instead, but not using it in coexistence with mutantdom. They are just going to plain take it away, and by force if they have to, as they've already proven. And Rasputin, he doesn't really seem to care for this whole xenophobia that Xeno has, because that's what their name is based on. Rasputin's beef isn't with mutants, his beef is with Krakoa. And he doesn't really seem to appreciate that Xeno, it seems to be so dead set taking out all of mutants, considering he is one. Rasputin doesn't believe that Krakoa is about Mutantkind. He thinks that it is a fledgling nation that is just not worthy of existing. He doesn't believe in it. He believes that Krakoa is a lie, and I don't think he would be wrong in that regard. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he were able to bring over people like Mystique, who are also like-minded in believing that Krakoa is a lie, thanks to her being reminded of what the truth is from Destiny, from beyond the grave. Because see, Xeno seems to think that Mikhail is some kind of disposable mutant. They don't know him that well. His powers essentially make him a full metal alchemist. This guy can literally take things and transmute them into almost whatever he wants, even doing so by taking out the leader of Xeno's super soldier, his, protector, and basically transmuting his body into solid rock. He's done something very similar to Iceman in the past, turning Iceman into a solid body of ice. And after he shows Xeno exactly what he's capable of, he reminds them that there are sworn enemies on Krakoa working as allies, united despite their divisions. That is a weakness in and of itself, because as he says, complex societies require complex cooperation, and we all know that when things are complicated, it becomes that much more difficult to maintain. Mikhail is incredibly transparent about exactly what their relationship is, that Xeno has been using Mikhail for his money, while meanwhile Mikhail has been using Xeno for their arsenal. And in a lot of ways, though their relationship may seem parasitic to one another, it might actually be more symbiotic. And Mikhail is willing to give Xeno something that they can use to make the divide, the gap between human and mutant, that much smaller. He gives Xeno the Cerebro sword, which apparently, despite the fact that it was destroyed in X-Force #1 and Magneto did reshape it into the form of a sword, it still has all the information that Xavier tucked away in it, even if it's not complete. Because at this point, Mikhail wants Xeno to continue building an army of super soldiers that he can use, in that he was able to create some incredibly powerful soldiers simply using Domino. What if they used Quentin Quire instead? I also think that Quentin Quire is going to serve another purpose, in that if they want to extract the information from that Cerebro sword, they're probably going to need a telepath. And that's exactly what Quentin Quire is. He is an Omega level telepath. So if anyone was going to be able to extract information from a broken Cerebro, it would likely be him. So yeah, this is a big deal. This issue, there is a lot going on here. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, man, dude, X-Force is, God, I keep saying it, man. X-Force is one of the best books out there. This is the best to me X-Force has been in some time. But anyways, let me know what you thought about X-Force #12 by Benjamin Percy and Bazal Dua. Wash your damn hands and sound off in the comments.
So hey, you made it to the end of the video. Awesome for you. If you enjoyed this video, and if you made it this far, I don't see how you didn't, do me a favor. Hulk smash that like button. And if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you click subscribe so you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers, and tap that bell so you know when I post up. Also, feel free to go check out my Patreon, where if you chuck in a buck, you can get early access to most of my videos up to a week early. And if you have time, make sure you swing by nerd901.com, where you can find more of my content as well as other amazing stuff. Anyways, until next time, I love you 3000 plus ultra!